Hey guys, we actually don't need to meet today. This assignment is like way too easy. We just have to compare Christina Rossetti and Alfred Tennyson. So I've got down one's a boy, one's a girl. They both like to stare off into the distance.
That's not the assignment, Caroline.
What? Yes, it is, Professor. It says right here. Oh, we aren't comparing Rossetti and Tennyson. We're comparing their use of figurative language to create themes. Yeah, maybe you should stick around. Today's mission is to break down a comparative prompt to develop a strong claim, then evaluate which evidence best supports that claim and explain why. Today, we're comparing Rossetti's and Tennyson's use of figurative language to build themes. But we're not just doing this for one assignment. We want to understand how comparison works, so we can do it again in another class or anytime we need to compare ideas with purpose. In literature, comparison helps us look past surface similarities and differences to understand what authors are saying and why they say it that way. So let's dive in. Our prompt says, compare how Christina Rossetti and Alfred Tennyson use figurative language to develop themes. Okay, so let's break this down together. What are the parts of this prompt we need to answer in our claim? First, I need to identify the subjects I'm comparing. In this case, it's Christina Rossetti's and Alfred Tennyson's use of figurative language. Then we need to establish our basis for comparison. It looks like we'll be focusing on how they use that figurative language to create a theme. Lastly, we need to identify what is similar or different about their use of figurative language. Maybe they use the same figurative language to create different themes. Or maybe they use different figurative language to create the same theme. Or their uses could be totally different or really similar to one another. There are a lot of options for how we could compare them. The thing is, I just don't totally remember every example of figurative language and all the themes in Locksley Hall and Goblin Market. If only I had a guide that would magically appear. Aha! Chapter 4, Comparative Analysis Notes for Locksley Hall and Goblin Market. And look at that! I'm spotting some similarities and differences already. Let's try writing a claim that uses this information. Pause your video and use the chart in your guided notes to write a claim that meets our comparative claim criteria. Use the sentence frame to help you if you need it. Before we go over your answers, I'm a little stuck. Maybe you guys can help me out. So far, I have Rossetti and Tennyson both use figurative language. I'm identifying what two things I'm comparing, establishing the basis for comparison, and identifying a similarity, but something is missing. In your guided notes, pause your video to identify what is missing from this claim. This claim does technically meet the comparative claim criteria, but it does not fully answer the prompt. I'm not supposed to be comparing if they do or do not use figurative language. I'm supposed to be comparing how they use figurative language to create themes. I need to use the prompt and my claim criteria to create an accurate and complete claim. Let me try this again, and let's see if the answer you wrote is similar. Rossetti and Tennyson both use imagery to explore emotional pain, but Rossetti uses it to warn about the dangers of giving in to temptation, while Tennyson uses it to express how painful memories shape his view of the past. Now I am clearly identifying that I will be comparing how Rossetti and Tennyson both use imagery to convey different themes. This is aligned to my prompt and my claim criteria. You may have written a different claim that still checks all the boxes, and that's great, because this is a skill you'll continue to practice in your lesson materials. For now, let's all use the same claim so we can think about how to support it. My claim is refined and ready to go, but what do you think we need to do next? Yep, we need some evidence to back it up. So I'll just find an example of imagery from Locksley Hall, or maybe it should be from Goblin Market, or maybe it shouldn't be just any imagery. Thank goodness, there's another page. Comparative evidence criteria. First, we'll need two pieces of evidence. Both pieces of evidence need to directly align to the claim, and when they're compared to one another, they need to show a similarity or a difference. I identified imagery as the shared technique both authors are using, so my evidence needs to be an example of imagery. But our evidence also needs to show how the imagery is being used to create different themes from one another. Look at the 6 pieces of evidence in your guided notes, then choose 2 that best support the claim and clearly show a comparison. Well, these 2 aren't examples of imagery, and I named that we are looking at imagery in my claim, so I can get rid of those. This is definitely an example of imagery, but it's really focusing on love and infatuation, which isn't what my claim is about. That's the same with this one. It's really focusing on the redemptive message in the poem, and my claim is focusing on temptation, so I won't select it. These are the 2 strongest pieces of evidence to support our claim for a few reasons. First, both of these are examples of imagery, which means that both directly align to the claim. But what is most important about this evidence is that when I put them next to each other, I can compare the themes they create. The image of something beautiful being trapped doesn't just illustrate a moment in a story. It supports a larger theme about how temptation can lead to danger or consequences. The violent crashing motion of water isn't just sensory. It mirrors the speaker's inner chaos, suggesting a deeper commentary on memory, anger, or loss. What makes this evidence strong is that it pushes the thinking forward and leads right into my reasoning about how the 2 texts are working in conversation. But we know there's barely just one perfect quote, especially when a theme runs through an entire poem. What matters is how clearly the evidence connects to the claim and helps you make a meaningful comparison. While we've written a strong comparative claim, selected aligned evidence, and discussed our reasoning to support it, we haven't quite put it all together into a CER response yet. We'll keep coming back to these skills and refine them as we go, so that by the end of this unit, you'll be able to craft a full comparative response that's clear, purposeful, and powerful. For now, use what you've learned today as a foundation to complete your lesson work. We'll build on it next time. See you then!
Hey, hey.